I'm Sam Walker. I play guitar and sing in a band called Clay Street Unit, based out of Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, how did you guys form?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually. We were our former banjo player Jack Klein and I were just hanging out with a mutual friend at a bar in Denver, and ended up getting to discussing music. And he mentioned he played banjo. He ended up coming over to my house. We hung out all night picking tunes, and next thing you know, we'd booked a gig. Really, from there, it organically turned into a trio, four piece, five piece, and now there's six of us. Added our pedal steel player. He actually ended up working at that bar that Jack and I met. And then our drummer came down from Boulder after he graduated school. And then our mandolin player, Scotty Bolin, and bass player, Jack Guitarba, joined. We had been playing around in some side projects in Denver, and they ended up playing in another band that happened to kind of run its course as far as people's jobs and everything. So we all joined forces and added Dan Andrew on the fiddle, and that rounds out the six of us.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are Denver based, but it sounded like a lot of you guys aren't originally from Colorado.
Yeah, actually, our bassist Jack Guitar was the only one who's born and raised here. The other five of us are all transplants, so we're all fortunate to call Denver home now. But he's the only one who grew up.
Are you guys bringing in a lot of different influences, or do you guys have sort of similar musical backgrounds despite coming from all these different places?
Yeah, I think it's a blend of the two. I mean, we all overlap, kind of in the country bluegrass world, but I think we all grew up, you know, having the influence of our older siblings, our parents, the region we're from, everything like that, and so everybody's a little bit different, which is really nice. It's a nice perspective to have people who aren't all kind of listening to the same stuff and didn't grow up in the same area and grow up listening to the same bands. So, well, I think it's like a big Venn diagram, and we all overlap a lot more than we don't. Everybody has their own little niches and certain types of music and bands that they've been listening to and really, is a fabric of their musical being.
Yeah. What would you guys call your sort of biggest common influences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd really be kind of the country, southern rock, bluegrass world that brings everything together. That's kind of the music in the world we live in, and so I think as far as what kind of meets everybody in the middle is kind of that Marshall Tucker, Allman Brothers kind of world of just killer classic rock, but it's got all of this regional feel and kind of a bigger overarching big sound. They were just big bands and had a lot going on. So I think those are definitely two bands that everybody can agree on that are both killer.
Yeah, so you just released your debut album, Sin and Squalor. It was supposed to come out through a different label under Sony that ended up folding. Could you just talk about what happened and trying to find like a new home for your album?
Yeah, certainly. We were fortunate enough to get that deal with Sony, like you mentioned, a subsidiary Monument. They were wonderful people. Such a joy to work with all of them. But yeah, unfortunately, Sony decided to fold the label a few weeks before we were scheduled to announce the release of the record. So it certainly pushed the timeline back a bit more than we imagined it was going to be released initially. Um, but it was a blessing in disguise. Everything happens for a reason. We ended up crossing paths with Leo 33, the label that we now get to call home for the record and for the hopefully the next few records we're releasing. But more than anything, it definitely threw a wrench in our plans. It wasn't how we drew it up or what we expected, but we have a great team around us, and we were able to navigate it and be patient. I think, right, when all that news came out, we all wanted to release the music immediately. We were about to announce the release date, so it was just a little bit more of a waiting game and playing our cards close to our vest a little bit longer than we wanted to. But I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to.
Have you guys been playing a lot of these songs before the album even got released?
Yeah, we've been playing a lot of them. Probably five, six of them. But we had to hold some close, like I mentioned, close to the vest, just so there was a new feeling to the record, and that they weren't played out at the live show, and it was new and fresh music to the listener. because what kind of bridged the gap between not having this record out and our previous EP was touring and keeping the live show, as fun and as new and fresh as we could without giving away all of the music, so that people still had something to anticipate. So there was a lot of give and take there of holding on to those songs and not playing them. So it's been fun the last few weeks getting to unleash a few of those and get to feel more comfortable with them on stage.
Yeah, what's been your favorite to play that you guys hadn't been able to share up until now?
There's two of them. I mean, I love a tune that Scotty and I wrote called "Left Unsaid." It's a kind of a song about being stuck in the middle of the two sides of good and bad in a relationship, and kind of the gray and the reality of that. Sometimes we overcomplicate things, just inherently being human and being in a relationship and overthinking things. And then another is a song that I wrote about my grandparents called "Way Over Yonder." It's kind of a slower, more patient piece. It's just a lot of fun to play with the band because I feel like we recorded it, 2 years ago and then just sat on it and haven't even rehearsed it until a couple months ago. So it's been fun to bring that one back.
Yeah, it must feel like you're really dusting some of these off.
Yeah, it's really fun because you go back and listen to the record, and it's not like you know we hadn't played the songs and messed around with them in rehearsal. We just hadn't with the intent of playing them live. So it just adds a little bit more intentional listening when you go back to the record of how do we want to emulate that and kind of bring it to life in the live setting. So it's been a lot of fun playing with those songs and just feeling better with them every night.
Yeah. Yeah, was that something that you guys were really like conscious about when recording the album? Just like thinking about how these were gonna sound live?
You know, I think that we didn't take that into account all that much. I mean, we're kind of a live band inherently, and we kind of cut a lot of that record with live bass and drums, and obviously dub some solos and over the vocals and everything like that. But a lot of the songs we just try to treat, yeah, I think like we would live and let it just kind of breathe and go at its own pace. It was cool because I think we treated the studio, obviously the time is more precious, but like a live setting, and wanted to really feel the take and not worry about um, the end result, really just be in the moment.
What did you guys kind of want from your first album? Like, what were the conversations that you guys were having when you were thinking about going into the studio?
That's a really good question. We were fortunate enough to work with an amazing producer, Chris Pandolfi, of the infamous String Dusters, and he came in a couple weeks before we went to the studio, and really we all had a big conversation about that, and kind of rearranged just a few little things sonically in every song that made everything a little bit more intentional and deliberate, and lean into certain instruments, kind of counterbalancing other instruments, and not worrying too much about who's playing when, but where the right instrument serves the song. And so I think it was a lot of just trusting the choices we made, and trusting the members of the band to all, complement each other and actively be listening. Because I think, some of the things that ended up on the record were little moments that we didn't necessarily plan, that just happened organically, a reaction of somebody playing something that ended up being some of my favorite, moments on the record when I look back on it.
Are you bringing in like a demo that the others are sort of listening and building upon?
So Scotty and I do a lot of the writing together these days. So we'll usually bring like a little stripped down demo of a mandolin and a guitar, two guitars, or a guitar, something really simple with a melody, maybe in a verse chorus, and kind of just see where it goes from there. We've got a pretty diverse instrumentation, and so it's kind of cool to just bring a pretty straightforward idea and see how everyone expands on it and what they add to the pot. So we don't really try to get in the way of that process all that much up front and form out what it's supposed to sound like, because generally those guys play their instruments and know what they're doing a lot better than we do. So just kind of let everything fall into place as much as we can, before trying to really assign any type of specific part to a song.
Yeah, just kind of keeping the bones like as bare as possible.
Yeah, I think just seeing what the potential could be, let everyone hear it, feel it out, And now with their, what we've been sitting on it and wrote it, it's fresh ears are the best thing for a new song, once you're in it, it's hard to take a look from 10,000 feet sometimes. And so, you don't hear where little parts could be or melody lines or counter melodies. So bringing it to the band is my favorite part, just to see what everybody throws into the pot and to make the arrangement, you know, our own version of what we want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, how did Chris get involved? Was he someone that you just always wanted to work with?
So Scotty and Jack, our bassist and mandolin player, had actually been um, in the studio with him a couple times with their other band, Morsel. Highly recommend you listen to them. Killer Denver band with some great records that Chris produced. But they had worked with him on their first two records and just really loved the experience. So when we were going to do our record, Scotty and I met with a few different people, and Chris just felt like the perfect person. He had a great relationship with them. He understood what we were trying to get accomplished. He was really, focused and put together and had a great plan, but also, let the moment, kind of sink in. And he wasn't trying to rush through anything. He had a great way of balancing, being efficient, but being really in the moment and being really present. So it was a joy to work with him. But it really worked out naturally that those guys had done a couple records with him, and it felt like the best fit for us.
Yeah, when you think of the Infinite String Dusters, you kind of think more of like the sort of jamgrass world, I guess. But when you listen through this entire album, you can definitely tell like the southern rock that you guys had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I think, with our instrumentation, it kind of leans certain ways naturally. And people call it bluegrass if it has a banjo, or they'll call it country if it has a pedal steel. And in reality, it's kind of just our version of what we took from all those genres growing up and playing together. And I don't think we tried to lean one way or another. Like you said, it just um, at its core, there is a southern rock component to it, but we just tried to really, like I said, serve the 11 songs the best way we could to each one. And if it leaned a little more bluegrass, so be it. If it was a little more country, a little more personal, stripped down, uh, it's what the song called for, and we just try to lean into that as much as we could.
You guys had one of my favorite artists like featured on a duet on Choctaw County, Lindsay Lou. How did that come about?
Well, she is one of our favorite artists too, so we have that in common. We love her music. That last record of hers, Queen of Time, is one of our favorites. We listen all the time. But we were actually in the studio, funnily enough, and I cut that song just me on both parts. And Chris was like really trying to squeeze it out of me to sing that different, Lindsay's part, what it ended up being, with more conviction, just because it didn't have that swinging balance of emotion. And I recorded it and it sounded pretty good or whatever. I thought so. The guys did. And our manager actually said, like, what if this song feels like it could be a duet? And he was like, who would we want? And everyone immediately was like, well, what about Lindsay? She's the best. Her voice is incredible. She just, like, it's so much emotion in the way she sings, and we just felt like it'd be a perfect fit for the song. And he ended up getting in touch with her team. And she was down, recorded it, sent us back the demos, and we were blown away. We were so grateful she wanted to work with us, that she lent us her time and her voice for that track. And it was cool because a few weeks later, actually, we opened up a show for the String Dusters, and Lindsay also played on the gig, and we got to sing it live together. And Chris was there and produced it, so it was a really cool full circle moment we all got to share.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's such a beautiful voice. Um, the show is called Tour Writers. I'm curious, have there been any like standout moments on tour recently?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great couple of weeks, having just released the record. We were fortunate enough to go to back. I grew up in the South, down South, and played some awesome shows in Atlanta, where we released the record, and at Terminal West and at Basement East down in Nashville. Had a blast. And then got to play the Opry the 17th last week. So It was a great couple weeks celebrating the release of the new record and getting to play some awesome shows and see some old friends, family, and more than anything, just finally get to play a bunch of these new songs live, get them out into the world. But I think the Opry was definitely a huge highlight as of late. Just kind of stepping into that room and feeling the history was pretty cool.
So, did you grow up around Atlanta?
I grew up actually in Montgomery, Alabama, so yeah, probably about 2 hours west of Atlanta. So I was down there a good bit growing up and have some good buddies and family.
What kind of bands or things were you doing musically down there growing up?
Um, I actually grew up mainly just singing, and then when I went to college, joined a kind of a fun jam band, Widespread Panic, Phish, Grateful Dead, like cover band songs, just having fun playing at the bars and stuff. So that's kind of where I cut my teeth, and then kind of picked up guitar toward the end of that, and moved out to Denver. So I kind of came about it a roundabout way, and was kind of writing songs before I played guitar, and then left being in college and needed a way to sing the songs. Picked up the instrument, and just next thing I know, just dominoes kept falling and meeting the right people, and um, music just kind of took over my life.
Wow, so you were just writing without any guitar, like knowing how to play?
I knew some cowboy chords and what was going on, and with GCD, could mess around, and well, was just having fun with it more than anything. And then moved out here, and Denver's got such a great music community, and just immediately met some people who were just open to playing, and it just kind of made me double down and commit to wanting to play as much as I could. And I never really gigged much outside of that college band singing, so it was all brand new to me, when I moved here 9, 10 years ago. But like I said, Denver's got such an incredible scene, and so many people brought me along, and you know dealt with me when I was could barely play the guitar, and I'm still doing my best to keep up there. But it's just been a blast to be in Denver, and to get to learn how to navigate being a musician around so many great musicians and people.
Have you guys gotten a chance to play Red Rocks?
We sure did last summer. We got the privilege of opening for Leftover Salmon and Kitchen Dwellers, two awesome bands, all great guys, which was an incredible experience. Yeah, we're so grateful they had us out for that.
Yeah, when you think of like sort of Colorado venues, like that's a legendary one.
Yeah, I'd definitely been to plenty of shows over the years, so it was pretty surreal getting to be on the other side of the stage. And we're actually going back, getting the chance to go back this summer and play with String Cheese Incidents. So I'm going to get to relive the nerves all over again.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm just thinking about like that musical background of yours. How was it to go from, just playing cowboy chords and sort of doing more of a singer-songwriter thing to jumping into like a jam grass or like fish type bands? Like I feel like those are two opposite sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean they're totally different. But I grew up listening to all those bands. Like um, I love all those jam bands and Widespread Panic and Fish. Seen them all a ton of times. Um, so I got it. I understood what all those guys were like going for, and why people related to it so much and how much fun it was. But it just wasn't something that I'd been exposed to playing wise. And so I really played in this group where I met Scotty and Jack, and Jack Klein, our banjo player, who was on the record. We were all just playing these side little gigs in a band called Southbound String Band with our good buddies, Evan Hotzen and Stephen Huntley. And they really just kept pushing me from a playing perspective. Like I was singing most of the songs, but those guys, started to give me more guitar responsibilities, and they were singing more lead. And it was really a band of all people really pushing each other and empowering each other. And we're all still best buds and play together as much as we can. But those guys like really helped me feel comfortable in my own skin, and to start, pushing it and getting out there and being comfortable, a lot of those gigs are just about being comfortable enough to go for it and like screwing up and getting through it and surviving. And, like they were, um, also patient with me. And so I feel like I just had such a great group of friends around me. And there's a million other dudes, um, and chicks that were so influential and helpful and just making me feel comfortable enough to go out and play gigs. Cause, I still get nervous every time we go out and play one. It means a lot to us, and it's definitely been funny going from solo singer songwriter to being in like a six piece where we're trying to, like you said, like push the boundaries of country and jam and how they can all coexist. And I don't know, it's been a lot of fun figuring it all out.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the album there are definitely plenty of like slower, more ballad type like songs.
Yeah, I love that writing style, and like I feel like it. Um, there's nothing to express how heavy the moment is or the feeling is than a ballad or something that kind of requires a little bit of patience. And I don't know, we tried to lean into that. I don't know what genre those fall under, but um, that's just kind of the way a lot of the songs Scotty and I end up writing kind of come out, and so we didn't try to fight it all that much. And it ended up kind of being an underlying theme on the record, kind of the push and pull of some quicker stuff and some stuff that kind of we wanted to stop, slow things down and stop you in your tracks a little bit.
The album is called Sin and Squalor. I'm curious what the album means to you.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a reflection of the first record and how we grew up from where we started to where we are now while writing it, and becoming, the band we are. We haven't had much. We've um, haven't had all that much time to get where we're going, and it's been such a blessing. And I think we're just figuring it out along the way. Mistakes and all, ruggedness and all, one show at a time. I think it kind of reflects um, who we are as a band, just trying to make it with what we got. I mean, we have some great guys and some great players, and so I think it's just kind of a culmination of growing up in our 20s and kind of all the missteps and missteps that happen for a reason along the way.
Yeah, is there anything that has kept you guys grounded throughout this like entire process?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just each other. I mean, I don't think any of us, really were planning on, playing all these amazing rooms that we're getting the opportunity to play. And so we're just grateful for every night we get to do it. We're all at the end of the day really, really close friends. It's you know, just such a blessing we get to do it together. So I think just the right group of people has been the best ingredient for us. Is I think everybody does a great job of holding everybody accountable and just making sure everybody's being present and showing up every night and just trying to take advantage of every chance we get.